Thanks for joining me today. My name is Drew, and like you, I have noticed in the last couple of months that life has changed pretty significantly, obviously thanks to what we now call COVID-19. But what I've been surprised to recognize in myself is that, like for a lot of us, it can produce a lot of anxiety, it can produce frustration, it can produce fear, and just the reality that really we have no idea what lies in the path ahead. And it's interesting because if I'm honest about my life, I know that that's kind of always true, but it's easy to get comfortable and feel like I do know what's ahead, like I am in control, like I do make the plans. And things like this give us kind of a shocking reminder that that is not as true as we think. And I don't say that to cause you more anxiety or more fear, but really because as I've thought about this season and this time and what is most helpful to me, like where do I find hope? Because sometimes things like this reveal our deepest longings. Like, what is it that's causing me the most anxiety? What is it that, like, I'm scouring the news, hoping for some kind of good update that I can feel more comfortable about, and then realizing even that can't really be where I find my peace, because something else could be right around the corner. And I've found that for me, and what I would like to share with you, is that probably the most important thing you can do right now is pray. I don't know how you approach prayer or what your relationship with God is like right now, but that can sound kind of intimidating. And yet, that's one of the things that I love about the Bible. See, the Bible talks about God as if He is the one who always knows what lies on the path ahead. He is the one who always knows the best pathway to guide me on in my life, and He is always willing to guide you, even if it's just one step at a time, one day at a time. So if that's true, then how do I get God's perspective? How do I talk to God about all of this stuff? How do I ask for His help? And how do I listen to what God would say? Well, basically, that's where we use that spiritual sounding word, prayer, which really just means talking to God, an opportunity to ask real questions, to express real thoughts, real emotions, and to learn how to listen for His response. In fact, one of my favorite books in the Bible is a book called Psalms. And Psalms is a collection of prayers. And it's not people who are looking for the right words or who think they have to say it just the right way to make God listen. Essentially, it is people expressing real thoughts, real emotions, asking tough questions in times that are good and times that are bad. And so over the next few weeks, we would like to invite you to join us on this pathway to prayer. Maybe just to take a couple more steps in what it would look like to talk to God during a time like this. And so each week we will look at a different psalm. This week we're looking at Psalm 139. And it will benefit you big time. Probably one of the best things you can do is just read that psalm for yourself, either in a paper copy of the Bible like this, or if you have a Bible app, or use a website. In fact, we've also put together a guide for that pathway that you can get on our website as a PDF. Or if you're like me and you like some paper that you can write on, just let us know. We would be happy to mail one to you. And these psalms are also printed in there so that you have a chance to read them for yourself. So I want to highlight just a couple of things from Psalm 139 today, because as I've been talking to people and thinking about my own response, anxiety is one of the biggest things that keeps coming up. For some of us, we've never dealt with it before, but the things going on in the world right now make us anxious. For others of us, and I know I've been one of them, we've dealt with anxiety in a number of different ways in our lives, and sometimes it can feel debilitating, and things like this make it feel sharper than ever. And so I love this psalm because this is somebody who has realized that God has known him his entire life. God has known him since before he was born. God created him, and God knows everything about him, past, present, and future, good and bad, and God still loves him, and God still loves you. And so by the end of this psalm, these are the last two lines of the prayer that he wrote. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. You see, what he figured out was that when there are anxieties in him, when there may be things that he's longing for that don't line up with God, what he needs is for God to lead him in the way everlasting. See, the everlasting way that God describes is part of what we just celebrated at Easter. that through Christ, we can have eternal life, that nothing that happens on this earth, good or bad, can take away that promise from him. But we don't have to wait until this life is over, because the things he describes, love, joy, peace instead of anxiety, those start right now. And so as you look in the guide that we provided, there are some questions to help us kind of chew on some of these things, and I just want to give you one today that you can think about. As your anxieties or your fears or your longings in this time, what you hope would happen, come around, ask yourself, how could an everlasting perspective change the things that you're longing for? How could an everlasting perspective ease your anxieties and help you find peace? How could God lead you into the way everlasting? So why don't you chew on that question for the next couple of days, and we'll meet you back here on the Pathway to Prayer.